I wrote this game, and oh my god. So we have some wonderful people here tonight. Why don't we all introduce ourselves, go around? I guess Bethany, you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Bethany. I'm camping right now, so I apologize for any video and/or audio glitches because I'm just using my phone as a hotspot. Um, I've I've never played this game before because it's brand new, but I've never played any sort of story game like this before, so new experience.
Well, I'm honored. Uh, Jesse?
Hi, I'm Jesse. I am not camping. I'm in my home, which does not mean there will not be any technical glitches, but hopefully not. And yeah, I'm just excited to play. Looking forward. This seems like a lot of fun.
Great, thank you so much. John?
Yeah, John. I have not played the game. I've heard about it through the Gauntlet, and I'm really excited to play. Um, and yeah, that's about it, I guess.
Great. Thank you guys all so much for coming. We have 4 players tonight, so with 4 players, what I normally do is, if you look on the R map, there's a family that we'll just not play them. One of these days, I'll decide on a different way to do that, but for right now, the easiest thing is just to dump the Marshall and Dons, which is a shame, but they're lovely people. Okay, cool. So, this is a story game about the Paris Commune, a brief revolution in 1871. We'll each be portraying 2 characters who lived in Montmartre, a working-class district of Paris, during the Commune. While we can change the details of what happened in history, the general outline of events will remain the same. Paris will be attacked by the French army, and thousands, including many of our characters, will die. My goodness, I've never had this happen before. So many people are wearing red. I think the easiest thing to do then, John, you are on the right when I look at the screen. So if you don't have a problem being first player, you have almost no responsibilities except to choose first when we pick characters.
Okay, great.
All right, great. So I'll just do that. And okay. So let's talk a little bit about the cats. So we're going to play revolutionaries in a freeform setting with card-driven mechanics in Paris, 1871. That's just after the American Civil War. So picture, muskets, but also breech-loading guns, if that's how you think of things, and cannon and trains and that kind of thing. The goal of this game is to explore why so many of these poor and working class people went defiantly to their deaths and come to grips with what they wanted to get from their revolution. Also to explore their emotions, doubts, triumphs, joys, and tragedies. Speaking of which, this game is serious in tone. A great deal of tragedy is going to unfold in it. The experience is going to be more enjoyable if we keep this in mind. However, the Commune was also a period of joy and liberation for many. Exploring that aspect will enrich our story. And finally, the subject matter. This game will try and teach us enough history about the period to be able to play our characters honestly. We will explore death, poverty, and loss. There are children and sex workers who are characters in the game. We'll have a discussion of any lines we don't wish to cross regarding these subjects, and we'll do that right now. Is everyone here familiar with the X card?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesse, you too?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you go to the roll for your party room, you'll note that we have a X card button which you can use. You can also do this or just say X card and we will stop immediately and figure out how to move forward and rewind probably. So lines and veils. Lines are subjects we just don't want to come into the game, and veils are things that we can have in the game, but we're just going to cut away and not actually talk about that on screen. Does anyone have any that they want to put out there right now?
Nope.
I think explicit sexual assault or torture of children is something I probably wouldn't be. I would like to have veiled at the very least.
Yeah, I think violence against children, we can put a line on that maybe. There's a child character in the game, so that's usually a call people make. All right then. Okay. So, okay, we're going to each be portraying 2 characters. There will be some characters left over. If we need them in a scene, we can simply ask somebody to portray any of the other characters. We're going to start the game with a brief montage that will introduce our characters, then we're going to play out a series of scenes. There are 3 rounds of at least 6 scenes. In each round, we'll each get at least 1 chance to set a scene. When you start a scene, describe for us where and when it takes place, and then say which characters are in the scene. If it is your turn, one of the characters you are playing should be in the scene. If for some reason you need both your characters in the scene, ask another player to portray one of them. When it is your turn, you have narrative authority over the scene. This means that if there's any question about what happens next, you have final say. You can also move the scene forward in time, do flashbacks, change locations, whatever other ideas occur to you. Also, if we need an NPC for any reason, if we can just grab somebody to do that as well. I don't have my French names list right in front of me, but I can grab that later. So this game is very politically charged. However, the politics usually emerge from the game itself. In your scenes, it's probably better to start from a place of considering your character's personal life and emotions rather than driving straight forward to the political content. Trust me, the political content, it's going to happen. It has never not happened. And finally, if you want to join a scene and it's not your turn, ask the player whose turn it is if you can join. Likewise, if you ever want to include an extra scene in a round, ask your comrades around the table if that's all right. If it is, play out the scene as normal. I've talked about the historical readings a little bit before we started, but we will each get a chance to read twice some little historical readings that will help set the scene. All right, without further ado, if we're all in the roll for your party room, I'm going to start by drawing...
Oh,
sorry.
I don't seem to have an address for the roll for party.
Sure.
I may have entered after the chat.
That's okay. I will just repost it in our chat here. There you go.
Great.
Okay. So let me just pick up an order here. Okay. So what we're going to do is John, me, Bethany, and then Jesse. That's going to be our order. We're going to pick one character as on our turn and then wrap around when we get to Bethany and go in reverse. So, not Bethany, Jesse. Sorry, I'm bad. Okay. So the 3 characters we have up right now are Félix Vincent. He's 28 years old, a radical proletarian poet, occasional journalist, and former student of Louise Michel. Now, you'll notice some of these cards have little icons and organizational affiliations, for lack of a better term. Those don't have a lot of direct influence in play while we're just playing the game, except to suggest connections between characters. In the end of the game, these things can come to bear. So Felix is a member of the Communist International, the first international, if you are a historian of Marxism, which is still headed by Karl Marx from London. And he's also a Freemason. And the only interesting thing about the Freemasons I want to say is the Parisian Lodge did not require belief in a supreme being. We also have Jean-Guy. He's 33 years old, a Frenchman. He is a soldier in the National Guard, which was the citizens' militia. The National Guard was not under command of the army. It was a separate body, and in this period was kind of a public works program, more than a kind of military force. It was a military force, but it was also a works program. And finally, everyone's favorite, Lodoiska Czawecka. She is a 30-year-old Polish woman, revolutionary socialist, soldier in the National Guard, known as a Polish Amazon who frequently goes around with several weapons on her. She is the lover of Amanda, who is another one of the characters. So, John, You have your choice of one of these fine people.
I think I would take Felix.
Nice. I like Felix. Okay, I'm going to draw. I'm going to just get him out of there. If you go back to the original chat room, I have the links to all the card images. You can also just, right click and pull it up. So I'm going to move it out of the way, but you might want to do that so you have the card in front of you. They're also in the PDF, but let's pull a new character. Ah, good. Louise Michel is a 40-year-old French woman, the illegitimate daughter of a nobleman. She's a school teacher and radical. She is a member of the National Guard, and she is a communarde, someone who is important and influential in the commune itself. I'm gonna take Jean because I always have a good time playing Jean. Let's see. Okay, Dominique Rousseau is next up. She is a 28-year-old French woman from an old free family of color in Martinique, and she works as a physician and midwife, and also as a medic for the army. Josephine, another one of the characters, works as her assistant, and she is also in the Communist International. Bethany, which one of these fine folks?
I think I'll take Louise.
Cool. All right. Josephine, cool. Josephine Marché, she's a 30-year-old French woman. She works as a washerwoman, as Dominique's assistant, and helps out with stretcher bearing in the National Guard. She is the wife of Jean. And Jesse, you're going to get to choose two characters. So, yeah.
That's exciting.
Pick one of these, and then I'll draw one.
So I'll start with I'll take Lodoiska.
All right, everybody likes Lodo.
I think she's fun. She looks fun. Also very sad, but I guess everyone's both sad and fun, right?
Yeah, that was a design criteria. And the other character that came up is Tariq. Tariq Tanuji is a 20-year-old Algerian man. He is a Spahi, which was a light cavalry unit. He fought against the Prussians in the French army and stayed in Paris and is now in the National Guard. And he's an improbable friend of Louise.
I think I'll go with Josephine.
Cool. And now I know I'm going to start getting marchandons out. Cool. So Amanda Messier is 28 years old. She's French. She works as a prostitute, is the lover of Lodoiska and the mother of Camille, or Camille, who is a child and one of the characters in the game. And we are back to Bethany.
I just realized I was muted. I'll take Tariq.
Cool. This happens. This is a bug that happens sometimes. Nope. I was doing so well. And all right, our last character is coming out. Camille or Camille, depending how French you want to get today. Camille is 12 years old and a child, and the child of Amanda and a student of Louise. And it's important to mention here that Camille is not a gendered name in French, so Camille can be any gender. So Bethany, you took Tariq. I think I'm going to take Amanda because we have a Lodo and I want an Amanda. Well, we have two Amandas showing, but that's okay. That's neat. We should have somebody else, right? Hold on a sec. Emery, Marguerite, Felix, Louise, Tariq, Sean. Nope, that is every. That doesn't make any sense, but somebody took. No, nobody took Dominique, right? That's what I'm missing. That's the thing I'm missing. Let me pull her card back up. Apologies. Technical difficulties. Devil. Okay. I will fix this manually, but the characters we have available for John for you to pick are Camille, the child, or Dominique, the physician.
Let's see.
I can give you a link to Dominique.
If you have a tongue injury, that like what the pain range is. Yeah.
There you go. Dominique is in the international and works with Josephine.
Let's see, I'm just gonna. What else? Let me see, Camille. I don't see Dominique up there, but I can. I have actually. I've got it right here in the PD. In my. Sorry, my computer's messing up here.
No, it's all right.
Okay, come on, Dominique. Okay, 28. Oh, right, I remember her. I think I'm going to do Camille.
Okay, perfect. We're a happy family. You, me, and Jesse. All right. Let me clear this room. Okay. So let's take a sec, and I will go through the map. And let's see. We have Jesse playing Josephine. Me playing John. Bethany. Photo is Jesse. And is me. And Louise is okay. So I've updated the R map a little bit with all our players, and what we're going to do is we're going to get some questions in a sec, and then we can use the R map to actually make notes. So one sec. Refresh. If everyone would do me a favor and just refresh the roll for your party room, we've got a new deck out called questions. So what we're going to do, there's a bunch of questions on cards. We're going to draw a couple cards each and take some turns asking each other these questions. Now, if the card says you should answer that part of the question about one of your characters. It may ask you to name another character or name it, or it has the name of another character. It is up to you if you want to ask the other player. A lot of people do that, and it's fine. You may also just declare what it is. Just check with the other player to make sure that's okay with them. And the tricky thing If you notice, there is a little button called Enable Hidden Draws, a little checkbox. It's in the row under the X card. I like to turn that on when we draw the questions. It's not the end of the world if you mess this up. The reason I like that is because sometimes we'll get a question that either doesn't fit or it just may not be a question that you're able to that you feel like exploring tonight. It happens. You can then just discard the card and draw another one, and everything will be good. But in the meantime, if you turn that on and then click on the questions button and say to draw 2 cards, like I just did, then you are good to go. And you'll see that you're hidden. If you pull them, you'll see that they have a little purple border around them. That's how you can tell. And we'll keep the order, except we won't do the snaking back thing. And when we take our turn, we'll ask only one question at a time, because that way we can build on them as we go. So I think we need one more card out person. Does everyone have 2 cards or?
Oh yeah.
There we go. Okay. Cool. Okay, John, why don't you ask one of your questions? I'll pop up the map over here.
Oh, let me see. Am I meant to have like regular playing cards, or is it like a custom set of cards?
It is a custom set of cards. I apologize. That may not have been completely clear. I noticed that 2 people have playing. I think you have playing cards out. That's totally okay. Just select them, delete them, and then right in the second row of buttons, there's a pull from questions. Oh, somebody cleared the entire room, didn't they? That's totally okay. Let me just. No, that's okay. I randomized. You probably want to just refresh the room. And I'll pull 2 questions. To be honest, I didn't really feel up for one of those questions anyway. So.
I've got just like a card back floating around. There we go. Should I just?
If you've got hidden draws turned on and you've pulled a card, you should see it in purple. I think also bigger.
Yeah, I don't have any cards. I just have blank cards. I want to delete them.
Okay. Wait, I think you may not have pulled them. Have you pulled from questions and hit 2?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean there's something weird going on my screen.
That's yeah. I stressed the heck out of Roll for Your Party. Fortunately, Shane and I are friends.
That's good. So I put 2 into cards, and then I hit pull from questions.
Yeah. Well, you pull for questions, and then there'll be a little dialogue, and you ask for 2 cards. There you go.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Oh, that's good. Great.
All right. We're awesome.
Cool. Those are other people's hidden cards. Now
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Technology, right? Darn it! I can't. Why is it so difficult for me to play a game with people scattered across the country on my network of computers with the sum of all human knowledge? Shouldn't this be easier? Okay, so now that we've cleared through that technical funhouse, John, why don't you ask us one of your questions?
Okay. Who is Amanda's best customer? Why does she ask for more money from? Why does she ask for more money from them? Oh, I reveal it, right?
Yeah, well, you can either tell me, you can ask me, either way.
Wait.
So right. So you're Kat. You're Amanda. I will ask. I guess I'll ask you.
Okay. This one doesn't happen a lot. I'm gonna say Felix. Yeah, Felix, you are my best customer. And why do I charge more money? Because you want to read your poetry and ask me if it's good love poetry. Okay. Actually, so that's me would be next. Yeah. So, who tried to take their own life once? Who stopped them, and how or why? Ooh, I like this. Jesse, is it okay if Josephine tried to take her own life once?
Definitely. That actually.
And I like the idea that John stopped her. The why, I think he actually is, he's still in love with his wife. The how? Jumping to the sun, too much a cliche?
Just the right amount of cliche.
Perfect. So yeah, she was going to throw herself into the Seine during the Prussian siege, and he came running. He went AWOL, came running and found her and dragged her off the bridge. Cool. Bethany, why don't you ask one of your questions? I'm gonna just clean up the room a little.
Cool. Oh, mine changed, which is weird because I can't get dice to re-roll on 2 clicks. And yet, I redrew. Okay, so I guess I'll go with these new ones. So, what story do you tell people about your father, and why are you ashamed of the truth? Let's see. I think one of my characters, this is sort of built in, isn't it?
Possibly.
Oops. Oh yeah, Louise is the daughter of a nobleman, and she does not want that widely known. So she tells people that he was. Let's see what's a good.
Martyr from a martyr. A revolutionary martyr.
There we go. He was a spy, and he was found out and killed. Second question.
Oh no! If you can hold off
Oh
on your
no,
second
one question. That's right. Okay, cool. Yes.
And so, and that question was to define an NPC named Louis.
No, Louise.
Louise.
Louise is
Is the
Louise.
character?
Yeah, Louise Michel. If you want to look on the R map, which is it should be in the chat room. I'll post it again.
Yeah, no, I've got that. Yeah,
okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I've been filling that in as we go along. Jesse, why don't you ask us one of your questions?
All right. So, what was the worst thing you did during the Prussian siege? Does anyone else know about it? I'm going to say that the worst thing I did, and it was pass information about defenses that I just observed from being inside the city to the Prussians.
Which character of yours?
Sorry. This is Josephine.
Okay.
And who knows about it? Let me look at the map a second. I think this may have been what led to the suicide attempt. That, like, on the one hand, that, like, hatred of the current rulers of the ruling class. On the other hand, the nationalism sort of like we're competing there. Who knows about it? Let's say that Louise knows about it. That because like Josephine thought about this as a revolutionary thing, she confessed it to Louise.
Nice. And by nice, I mean terrible. By which I mean great. John, why don't you ask us your next question?
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Whose life did Tariq save? Why did he decide to risk himself? Let's see. Tariq. Would it make sense? Let's say now, Tariq. Let me just see. Tariq's was he part of the Prussian?
No. No, he's Algerian and he fought against the Prussians.
Oh, against the Prussians. Okay, so let's say maybe Amanda. Although Camille.
No, I think I like Amanda better.
Amanda, yeah, okay. Amanda. And I think it's not the obvious thing that he's a customer of Amanda's, but that he let's see, Amanda, that he just has great respect for her as a mother, as sort of like an archetypal mother, and just just is very inspired by her in that role.
What did he do to save her?
Let's see. Maybe he pulled her he pulled her out of a situation where she would have been exposed to troops or something, like sort of a passing guard. He heard a guard coming and was able to shield her and pull her out of exposure.
Ooh, so he came riding in a knight on horseback, huh? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one. Who does Louise suspect of betraying the commune? Is that character aware of her suspicions? Oh, that's right, Bethany, you're playing both sides of that. Okay, then that's not as interesting. Okay, then it's gotta be Ludoviska.
Okay.
I would like to say, I mean, you can play it, tell me if this sounds right, but she suspects Ludoviska, but just is looking for any excuse not to believe it because she just wants to believe that she wouldn't do that.
Yeah, totally.
Jesse, do you know that Louise suspects you?
I don't think so. I think we'll see how it comes out in play, but I have some thoughts about Lodowiska's loyalty to Louise. But
Okay. Bethany, why don't you ask us a question?
What happened? Oh, there it is. What gender were you raised as? What gender are you now? What gender do others perceive you as? Tariq was totally raised as a girl, but he disguised himself as a man, and then discovered that he actually preferred that, and like he felt like himself for the first time, so he stuck with it. Let's see, he is. I think others generally perceive him as a man. Maybe there are a few people who know his secrets, but I don't think it's I don't think he has a lot of trouble anymore. I don't think it's like a big, like, overriding constant concern. Yeah. So,
And did you say that he has always liked women?
I did not say that, but sure, let's go with that.
Oh, you didn't say anything about that on that.
No, but it works, so let's go.
Okay. So I put raised as a girl. It didn't take.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And I guess that's Jesse. We have one last question, right?
yeah, am I muted? No, good. All right, last question. Reveal. Who did Felix write a poem about? What do they think of the poem? Why did he choose this character as the subject? So let me look at the map a second, just see. So a general question for the group here. Well, hold on. We don't have a player for Dominique, right?
That's correct.
So, and Camille has not yet had any sort of relationships created through questions. But John, you're playing both Felix and Camille, so maybe it's not the best idea to have that the answer. I don't know. What do you folks think?
That's probably a good idea. That's why I didn't end up having Louise and Tariq suspect each other. That was my first instinct.
Okay, so then let's say Felix wrote a poem about Lodowiska. And if you're okay with that, John, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with the end of the question, and then I'll come back and answer that. But so, John, why do you think Felix chose Lodowiska as the subject of the poem?
Let me see. I think it would be one of his love poems, and he just has a vision. Well, he he has a sort of a love. He's attracted to her and attracted to her identity as this revolutionary socialist, and the sort of romanticism and respect he has, and he wrote a poem that was both a love poem to her and a love poem to the cause.
That is pretty cool.
That is cool. So, so I think that when the wraparound question was what did they think of the poem? So I think Lodoiska maybe doesn't get it. I think she has the revolutionary sentiment like sits with her very well, but maybe she doesn't even realize it's about her, right? She sees it about this like idealized image of the revolutionary, and like it completely misses that she's the subject.
That there's like a personal, that there's actually like a person to person aspect
right,
to it.
There, right? That like, maybe Felix used her as a model in some way, but maybe not. Maybe she's just like, yes, the revolution. The revolution as a woman, of course.
That's so good. Kat, when you get a chance, could you post the link again to the live map? I can't seem to get it. I opened it, downloaded it.
Yeah,
and,
you just have to look at it online, and then you'll get the changes.
Great.
Okay, so we have what I think we can try to do is start the prologue scene, which is going to be a little montage of our characters and some readings. Sorry, and then we can maybe take a quick break and kick off Act 1. So, since we have no marchandons, usually what I do is we'll read in order. So, I'm the facilitator. I'll kick off. So we'll just do me, Bethany, Jesse, and then John, which is actually the order that will go in turn 1. Well, after we do the first thing. Never mind. I'll cover in a second. So, prologue. They've come for our guns. March 18th, 1871. This game is about the Paris Commune, a working-class revolution in 1871. We'll be playing characters that live in Montmartre, one of the most radical districts of Paris. For 72 days, the Commune was one of the most progressive governments in history. During its brief lifetime, it tried to create a state with workers' rights, free education, and the liberation of women as its foundations. The conservative government, headquartered in Versailles, invaded Paris at the end of May and crushed the Commune. Bethany, if you've got it open.
I do. Paris was the most important city in continental Europe. Under Emperor Napoleon III, nephew of the more famous Napoleon, the center of the city had been rebuilt with broad boulevards and chic restaurants and boutiques, the capital of humanity. But in the poor neighborhoods on the outskirts, like Montmartre, unemployment was high and people lived in cramped, crowded conditions without running water or indoor plumbing. Conditions were ripe for another of the once-a-generation Parisian revolutions.
Great. Jesse?
Mm-hmm. The Franco-Prussian War. In 1870, the emperor was lured into a war against Prussia and its German allies. The war was a disaster. The emperor and most of the army were captured in September. A republic was proclaimed and tried to continue the war. The Prussians besieged Paris. The winter was cold and food ran out. The rich ate animals from the zoo, the poor dogs, cats, and rats. The only way to get mail out of the city was by balloon. Finally, the Republic surrendered to the Germans.
Okay, and John?
Okay. The soul of the Republic. Parisians felt betrayed. Despite the large number of troops of the National Guard, a militia that was often the only paying work during the siege, the government never supported them for an attack against the Prussians. When the national elections returned to parliament with a monarchist majority, Paris felt sure that the Republic would fall and any hope they had for a more equal society would be destroyed. Several insurrections broke out. The battle for the soul of the French Republic was about to begin.
And back to Bethany.
The government, now led by Adolphe Thiers agreed to pay 5 billion francs in reparations. The Germans remained dug in east of Paris. The National Guard's cannons in Montmartre had been bought by its inhabitants, not the government, but Thiers ordered their seizure to prevent insurrection. Before dawn on March 18, 1871, soldiers of the French army came to take the guns, but were confronted by a crowd of Montmartre's women. The commander ordered his soldiers to shoot the women, but they arrested and executed him instead. The National Guard took over Paris and ordered elections for a new government for Paris and France, the Commune.
Okay. So now what we're going to do is take a turn narrating a brief scene in both of our characters' lives during the day of March 18th, 1871. We'll start with John, work our way around the table twice. Well, virtual table. Each player should only narrate a scene about one of their characters on their turn. So we'll take 2 circuits around the table. This allows the other players to build on the details previously heard. Your scene can be from before, after, or during the attempt to seize the National Guard's cannons. The scene should be very short, just an impression of your character, and shouldn't last more than a minute or 2. Your narration should help give us a sense of who your character is and what they do. The characters in this game are all in the working classes of Paris, people whose daily lives have often been erased in history. Show us what they do, who they love, and how they react to the news of this sudden revolution. Do they accept the execution of the general? Did anyone speak in his defense? Do any of the characters oppose the creation of the commune? Characters cannot die yet. Yeah, it did. And when we've taken each had a scene for our character, we'll move on to part 1. So John, why don't you kick us off here?
And do I just narrate or do we just narrate a scene that includes our character alone, or do we frame a scene with other people?
You can frame the scene with other people. Dialogue is probably not really necessary here because we're just trying to get. This is the equivalent of a photo montage in a television show where you might just see us check in really quick with all the characters.
I see. Okay. Let's see. So Felix is donating his time at at some sort of like food commissary, and is helping, going the extra mile, helping the poorest people in the neighborhood with food, like whatever scraps and food is available. And he's told of the upcoming let's see, National Guard. He's having a conversation with one of the other people about the upcoming election of the commune, and they're expressing hope for that to take place.
Okay, let's see. I think, yeah, and I don't want to. Let me know if this boxes you in too much, Jesse. But I think we see Jean early in the morning. He's doing his butcher assistant stuff, so he's out back butchering some animals. He's a big guy. He's good looking for his age. And he's got those big arms from all the physical labor he does every day. And he looks up and sees Josephine coming down in this huge crowd of people, and somebody's got already broken out a red flag, and he just kind of looks, slams his cleaver down into a stump, and goes out and hugs her. That's it.
Just quick question about the timing of that.
Yeah. Oh, that would be.
That was great. Was it after the arrest or before?
It, it would be it would be after the guard tried to seize the cannons and failed. Not the guard, the army tried to seize the cannons and failed. So it's kind of like this joyous moment when everybody is celebrating their success.
I love this. This is great. I can use it.
And Bethany.
Tariq was definitely in the group who captured or arrested and executed the general, and he did not defend him. He's not delighted about this, but he went along completely willingly. And afterwards, he just kind of like walks away with this just very non-committal expression. Like you can't really tell what he's thinking about this. I think he doesn't know himself.
Okay, Jesse.
So I actually want Josephine to go last. So I think Lodoiska. So Lodoiska, I think at this point is functionally a mercenary. She's been, she works for the National Guard, but she's maybe only just becoming kind of radicalized. And so, she's, I think, with her unit of National Guardsmen, sort of maybe even there to hand over the cannons to the army, and is very, like, you sort of see her, and she's, they've been besieged. She's in her sort of ragged uniform. She has, these maybe the one rifle, and then several knives about her body, and like she's scary looking. Maybe like a big scar on her face, and she kind of, again, very gaunt, but not tall. And she's like, are we going to hand these weapons over? Should we hand these weapons over? What's going to happen? And then she sees the women sort of like pouring in to stand between the weapons catch and the army. And she's almost surprised by the amount of relief she feels when the army refused and installed their leader.
Cool. John, why don't you give us another one?
Okay. Let's see. Camille is who, I guess, I don't know why I think he's probably a boy for some reason. I don't know. Is in his home in the apartment, and Amanda, he's in one room, sort of in the living room, reading, and Felix has visited and is in another room with Amanda, and he's it's troubling him to a certain. It's sort of he tries to put it away, but it sort of troubles him that he likes Felix, but it troubles him that there's this relationship that he doesn't understand, and as he does occasionally, he hears Felix kind of passionately sort of screaming out, not screaming out, but loudly reading these love poems that he reads to Amanda. And it makes him feel, it just plays with his heart and his emotions. He wants to dislike Felix, but he is drawn into the language that he hears through the door of these poems. But he also is confused because he doesn't know if these are love poems to his mother. But the literature, the pure art of it is fuels his kind of passion.
That is a neat take. I like that. Sort of a continuation of that. The camera will come in. Felix is reading from his latest ode, and Amanda's kind of listening, bored. She's just wearing her little chemise. And then she hears the commotion outside and goes to the window, and we see Ludoviska running in the middle of the crowd, and then Tariq gallops up next to her, and they're talking for a minute, and the camera would cut back to Amanda, and she's smiling and quite obviously attracted, but the shot was framed, so we're not sure who she was looking at when she smiled. And Bethany is next.
I mean, Louise has to be near the head of that group of women who confronted the army. And she expected to be shot. So when that didn't happen, this is kind of where the scene is right after, like, they shot the general instead. She's just kind of standing there looking stunned with relief, until another woman comes up and like grabs her arm and is like, yeah, and like then kind of the spell is broken, and she goes with the whole procession down the street that Amanda's about to look down at.
Nice. And Jesse, take us to the bridge.
Okay, so I think what sort of happens is the camera moves off of Louise's face and slides over a number of the other women in that crowd until it rests on Josephine. And what you see on Josephine's face is almost ambivalence. She also expected to be shot, but maybe kind of felt like that was what should happen. Standing up for the revolution and then being executed by the rightful rulers is like a nice balance for her in terms of her patriotism and her revolutionary zeal. And when it doesn't happen, when she doesn't get to be the martyr, she's maybe on the one hand happy to be alive, but also maybe that wasn't really what she was there for. And I think the camera sort of follows her as she goes with the crowd of women, and then the red flag, and we get back to that same scene with Jean, and you see his happiness at the revolution, like his clear joy, and then that we already saw, and now we're getting it from Josephine's perspective, where it's a little bit more mixed.
Nice. Okay, so what I'd like to do here is take a short break when we get back at 8:07 if you're following along on the East Coast. And we'll kick off with round one, and I guess I get to go first in that, and we'll do 6 scenes, so we'll wrap around and a couple of us get to go twice. All right, I'll see you all shortly. must be spring because it's light outside still, but you wouldn't know it.
It skipped spring here.
Yeah.
It's like it feels like June. I'm gonna go back to North Carolina and freeze to death here in a couple days.
Wow. Yeah, it seems to be how New York works lately. We just sort of skip spring and move straight on.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had the nice day in the 50s. That one.
Ouch.
The
Where
one
you,
day of spring.
where are
Sorry.
you, Jesse? Where are you located, Jesse?
Also New York. That was.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we also had that really nice day on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, you'll probably want to refresh the rule for your party room. Because I've added. Why is there another deck? Why, yes, yes, there is. We'll get to that in just a sec. But I wanted to lay the groundwork for that. So start us off with next set. Part 1, Carnival of the Oppressed, March 18th through April 2nd, 1871, in which the commune establishes itself and begins the social revolution. The mood is optimistic, joyful, and unbridled. We have Tariq, Lodoiska, and I'll read Dominique.
By the evening of the 18th, the army and government had fled Paris in a disorganized retreat to the former royal palace in Versailles, 20 kilometers west of Paris. Other communes sprang up: Lyon, Marseille, Toulouse. I am not pronouncing any of those right, I'm sure. Most were quickly crushed by the Versailles government, and in Algeria, a revolt began against the French colonists.
Elections were quickly held in Paris. A council of delegates, decentralized and using direct democracy, took over the government. Some people wanted to march right away for Versailles and attack the government before they could regroup. While we debated, the Versailles forces were already moving towards Paris.
Overdue rents were forgiven. Goods pawned at the government pawn shops, the payday lenders of the time, were reclaimed. Complete separation of church and state, a working-class dream, was decreed. Everywhere there were lectures and free classes, and committees for women, defense, welfare, building barricades. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to some friends of mine in the role for your party room. I do this every game. I forget to turn this off. There we go. So the placards are meant to represent the posters that the commune was quite liberally plastered with. About 90% of them I based on actual placards that I found in various archives. And they're a little, what you'll get is they have a title, a little quote, and then a historical event and then at the bottom, there are some sensory impressions that can help you use them. It's never required to use one of these cards on your scene. You never have to. If you do use one and we feel as a group like, that's all we're going to get out of that one, then we'll just discard it and draw another one. When we get to the next act, I'll discard all of them and we'll draw 3 new ones just to cycle things a little bit. And they're there just sort of, to help us with any blank page syndrome type thing. So the 3 placards we have out are Build the Barricades. The commune desperately calls for workers to help build defensive barricades in the city. This task is made intentionally difficult by the remodeling of Paris to have broad boulevards, which are harder to block. Citizen Courbet. The well-known artist Gustave Courbet was in charge of the Federation of Artists. He was also responsible for restarting the munitions factory built into one wing of the Louvre during the siege. And feast. The inhabitants of the neighborhood put together an informal public feast for everyone who wants to join. I like that one. I wrote that one. That one I didn't find. So what we'll do is I'll start. So this turn is going to be me, Bethany, Jesse, and John. That'll be the order. We're going to go around in that order. We'll set a scene each. Characters can't die yet. Please, we're going to get to it, I promise. And we're going to do 6 scenes. So John and I will take 2 scenes, and then we'll move on to the next part. So cool. It's so rare I get to kick off. I like the idea that it's the feast. It's sometime after we've had this 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 bolt of lightning revolution that nobody's really sure what to do with yet. And there's just a street in Montmartre that's been blockaded, and people set out trestle tables, and there's all kinds of good, honest French country cooking potluck style. There's big tureens of soup boiling away. There's all kinds of meat being roasted and on spits, and bread. Bread and wine everywhere. And John comes up to Felix and Louise, who are having an animated and refined discussion of revolutionary politics. And John just kind of stands over them, this massive, bulking guy, kind of fingering his cap. He's like, Monsieur, Madame, or I should say citizen, right? What I want to know is, what are you going to do for us workers now that we've won? I hear much talk about what we can do, but what are we actually going to do?
What do you need most?
What do I need most? I need my wife to not have that look of fear in her eyes all the time. I need to not think that I'm going to have to cheat my employer again to try and scrape a little food and maybe steal a soup bone to keep me alive. But more than that, madame, all my life I've worked with my hands. I came to Paris, I built things. Half the streets that you see paved here, I was on a crew for one of them. But I came up a bit. Butchering animals, it's dirty, hard work, but I will do it. I have a wife. Maybe one day, if it's not too late, I will have a child. But why am I looked down on by everyone? I can write my name. I can do some ciphering. You, madame, are educated in Felix. You write those poems. But have you written a poem about someone like me yet, Felix?
I hear you. I hear you, Jean. We all, I think, share your feelings. None of us are wealthy and have reason to not worry. But I see what you mean. I mean, the things I write are about the glory of our movement. I do. I think you're right. I understand that we need to focus on we need to come back down and focus on the specific legislation that we're interested in.
That's such a perfect answer. Sean just sort of sits very heavily down and puts his hand in his hands. My whole life, I have only wanted to feel like a man. Is that what I'm feeling now? You should put that in your poetry, Felix. What it feels like to be a free man.
How does it feel, Jean? How do you feel right now?
I think mentally Jean flashes back to that moment he dragged Josephine off the bridge. And he says, I feel hopeful, as if I've been delivered from a catastrophe. But I am frightened. I'm more frightened than I've ever been in my life, and I don't know what to do next. And I think that's scene. Bethany. Oh, so do we want to keep Feast up, or I don't know, up to you guys.
I think a lot of people could be at that feast, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
useful
my
for a lot
thinking.
of things.
Yep.
Possibilities here. Oh, the barricades. Tariq is working on the barricades. Just picking up any loose, heavy object he could find and just stacking them up. And things keep coming, rolling back down because they've run out of anything block shaped and are adding things like lampposts and shit to it. So something crashes back down and like he jumps out of the way and runs into somebody and like work stops for just a moment while they're kind of like collecting themselves and go to straighten things out and and I think let's see who else would be there to be this person that he backs into. How about Loidiska? There we go. Loidiska. Yeah, he kind of runs into her. He's like, did you do any of this in Poland and did it work?
Very little worked in Poland. So much so that there isn't a Poland.
Yeah. Good point. You should how much did you see there? Were you a leader of anything there, or do you have any wisdom that you can share with us?
So I sort of start picking up some of the materials and like building the barricade, right? Like getting back to work, and I say, what I did there is what I do here. Help where I can and try not to die. That's all the wisdom I can give you.
Yeah, that's what we're all already doing, unfortunately. Some
are better at not dying than others.
This is true. You seem to have a talent for it, so I guess I'll follow your lead and just like and does that, like physically starts piling things up along with her. And I have no brilliant ideas, so I think that's seen. Unless you have.
Okay, Jesse, you're up next.
Okay, so I think this is a domestic scene with it's gonna be Lodoiska again with Amanda, and I think we've stolen maybe a few hours for ourselves in the early evening, and we're sitting down to eat something, and I think maybe Camille, however you pronounce it, uh, has recently come in and is sitting with us, and we're maybe eating uh, a thin sort of like a thin sort of broth with maybe a few vegetables in it. Maybe maybe a bone for flavor, but it's there's not a lot to go around right now. And I say to Amanda, earlier today I heard the most fantastic speech from Louise Michel. She was explaining to me, not just to me, to all of us on the street, all of us who were nearby. She was explaining to us, she was telling us about the power of revolution, and her cap was bright red, and she spoke to us of the glories of the people and what we the workers can do to help each other and rise above the people who overcome the people whose boot has been stomping on us for so long. And I don't know, Amanda, it was in that moment, I felt so engaged, so in touch. And then she left and I left, and I don't know where that is anymore.
So Amanda is, she still has a lot of her looks, and she's got beautiful blonde hair. And as Lodo goes through this, she takes out a kind of expensive looking cigarette case, opens it up and lights up, and then looks up at her and says, "Oh, customer paid me with that today. Apparently a lot of the bourgeois have fled the city, so."
There's still tobacco in this city? Share.
Oh, of course, my love. Well, I've heard Louise speak a lot. And yet, she speaks of revolution, but here, look at what we're eating. And, well, frankly, I think that we should just help ourselves to some things since nobody's around here. I mean, they've lived so well, and we've lived so poorly, and oh, Lodo, what were you like in Warsaw? Was your family rich?
My family were Poles. And what that meant was, unless we were willing to pretend to be Russians, whatever wealth you might have had was gone. It didn't matter. So, maybe once when I was very young, I got to taste something sweet. But it didn't last.
Well, but we could get some of that back, I think. I first came here from Normandy. And as is typical, when she starts to reminisce, her Norman accent becomes stronger. First come here from Burgundy, from Normandy, and the world was at my feet. Edouard used to paint me every day, and he took me to salons, and he took me to galleries, and he bought me the finest dresses. And then I got pregnant, and that wasn't good enough for him anymore. I want that back. I want to be pretty. I want you to not. I'm not ashamed of what I do, but I don't want you to be ashamed of it.
It's funny. When I listen to Louise, I want to share everything we have with everybody around. When I'm sitting here with you and with Camille, it should just be the three of us, and all of them be damned. And scene there.
Could I just interject one thing as Camille? Camille was sort of hanging back and like listening to the conversation, but it's clearly a conversation about between the adults. But he sees this soup and he's very hungry, and he asks, he says like, "Mama, does what Louise say mean that we will one day have bread and sausage, and I won't be so hungry, and we won't be in such pain?"
I don't think I want to give a rejoinder to that right now. Yeah.
Let's end there. That's beautiful.
John, it's coincidentally your scene.
Oh, right. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe Camille and some other kids from the area, as their school for the day, have been brought around to have a little meeting with Louise, and to have sort of like a little political lesson. And Camille is saying to a friend, I hear that Louise, I hear that we're going to take back Paris. We're going to be in charge. My mama tells me that Louise is going to lead us to a victory in this. And let me see, maybe let me just see if who else would be here? Maybe Josephine is maybe helping here, sort of with the kids, and Camille. Let's see. What's the action though? Shoot. Maybe. So yeah, they're walking through the streets to come and meet Louise, and they do, and Josephine was sort of helping lead them to that place, and Camille, all the kids sort of, they're like 10 kids maybe or so, and Camille calls out to, when they sit down and they're in front of Louise, Camille calls out and asks, you know, what can we do to fight? What can we do to help? All us kids, we wanna, we're big, we're tough, we're old, we wanna do what we can do.
This leads perfectly into what I was going to do, so I'll just do it. You're right. You're right. You're old enough that you should learn about revolution and about what we're doing here, and about how about the hard things that we need to do to make it happen. It's not going to be magic. No one is going to snap their fingers and suddenly everything will be perfect. There are lots of people who would like to stop this, and Louise takes them to the Louvre, where the munitions factory is being created, and shows them, like, these are weapons being built. This is dangerous. This is a dangerous time. You have to be careful. You have to obey your parents. You have to, you have to be ready. But also look around and look at all the art here, and someday you will have us workers will have the time and freedom to create things like this just because we want to. And that's one thing we'll be fighting for.
Can I, do we get guns?
I hope not, but it might come to that.
I think Josephine at that sort of like steps behind Camille and sort of like squeezes his shoulder, as if they both sort of be like comforting in the idea that might happen, but also like, it's all right, buddy. You might get a gun. That would be okay too. Like, just sort of to be supporting there.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, because I'm brave and I will help.
I know you will, but if this revolution is going to have a future, we need children, and we need children to survive.
Will we have food?
For now, I think we'll just take it. For the long term, I hope so. There's no guarantees. I'm sorry. I wish I could promise you yes, but we don't know for sure.
I think I say, you made us plenty of promises before the Prussians left.
Yeah. Perhaps I've learned from my mistakes.
I guess that's good.
Okay, according to my own chart, I'm next. Cool. So it's a beautiful spring day. late March, so I've been in Paris then. It's not that beautiful. But this day is. And we get this sort of crane shot, or no, a tracking shot of Amanda, now wearing a perfectly wonderful, fine bourgeois lady dress. She has the complete outfit except for, of course, the jewelry. But she's walking through the streets of Montmartre, and she like comes by Felix, where he's scribbling at some table, and just kind of brushes his hair and watches him look up, and just keeps moving on. Maybe passes Jean, who slams down his cleaver, and then looks over at Josephine and blinks. And finally, she comes up to the barricades, and Camille's in tow with her. But yeah, she's making sure she's on display a little bit. She comes walking up the company of National Guard that's up on the barricades, and sits down in front of Tariq, unfolds a basket, pulls out a bottle of wine and some bread, and says, I was hoping that maybe you and I could have some lunch together.
I can't say no to a beautiful woman offering me food.
Monsieur Tariq, you know that when we had the big patriotic week, and I made it known that anyone from your unit who wished to drop by could enjoy my company. You did not come. And I assure you, monsieur, I would have thanked you properly for saving my life, and of course, saving the life of the mother of my beautiful child. Camille, put that down!
Hey. They said I could have a gun, Mama.
Well, yes, but not... She just looks at Tariq like, what do I do?
You know, it might be good if he learned to shoot that gun just for self-defense. We don't know what's coming.
Oh. All right, but it seems rather extreme to arm a child. And in any case, isn't that a little bit of a distraction? Are you trying to avoid my question, monsieur? Because, or are you saying that? And she leans back. Are you saying that perhaps I don't interest you? Certainly, I understand there are men like that in any art unit. I can give you a recommendation for a lovely house down by Place Pigalle.
Wow. No, and half of the stalling is in character. I can assure you, it's no disrespect for your skills or for you as a person.
So I think Amanda sees this, and then suddenly, like, it dawns on her slowly that Tariq is actually upset about something. And very gradually, she sort of fades out of this persona she has of the seductress, and kind of leans forward just a smidge again now, the Norman peasant girl, and says, "Oh, Tariq," and just grabs his hand. "Forgive me. I don't know how to just be anymore.
With me, you can always just be.
I came to the city, and the only thing anybody thought was worthwhile was how I looked. And that's all I've ever had to exchange for my bread. I look. You're trying to. Your country's in revolt, and Lodo is trying to build some kind of government. And what do I care about is this dress.
It is a beautiful dress. But what would you like to do?
If I could, I would have a little cottage by the sea. Just me and Camille. And, well, someone. Maybe Ludoviska. Maybe someone. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Lodo is. She's not like anyone.
No, she's not.
I thought I loved Edouard when I came here, but I only loved what Edouard made me. Edouard never loved me. Lodo loves me, and she loves Camille. But I suppose a hazard of my trade is I've learned I can love more than one person. Do we want to cut the scene there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, perfect. So great. You get to go again.
Oh,
And
okay.
after this scene, we'll go to Act 2. So we'll probably take a quick break, I guess. I think.
Okay. Let's see, what are they? Hmm. More cards. Yay, cool. Trying to think of something that hasn't already been covered. So who would this would be? Oh wait, my last name was actually Tariq, not Louise, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had a scene.
Okay. Well, there's been scenes with both of them, and I couldn't remember which ones were mine and which ones I framed.
Yeah, to be honest, that's one of the reasons I didn't keep the distinction Montsegur makes between primary and secondary characters, because it wasn't happening.
Right. Yeah, I can see how that would work. Okay, so I guess this is actually a Louise scene, not a Tariq scene. Which actually doesn't help much, but oh, okay. I think Louise goes to talk to Lodoiska. And um, looking at the list of things that. Sorry, my information is. I have too many layers of windows here. Okay. Yeah. Louise goes to talk to Ludowiska, and she wants to know why she thinks that Ludowiska is being underutilized. She thinks that she's just acting as kind of a soldier, and that she actually like has the capacity to be like a leader, um, to contribute more than just throwing trash on barricades. Where would she find Ludowiska?
I think she finds Ludowiska throwing trash on barricades.
All right, good. Yes. Ludowiska, I hear there are a lot of new committees starting up for so many different things. There's one. They're looking for people who are knowledgeable about defense, and there are women's rights committees. There are committees. There are groups looking to gather food and to decide how we're going to provide food in case of attack. And here you are with probably more experience than most of the people here, throwing trash on a barricade. I won't deny that someone needs to do this, but I think you could serve better elsewhere.
Oh, Citizen Louise Michel, I am so honored that you have that kind of confidence in me. All I want to do is help. Give what I have for the revolution. But to be very honest, what I have is my heart and my hands, and such experience as I have mostly involves getting shot at and building barricades to try not to get shot at. If you think I can contribute to one of these committees, I will take myself there. But, well, can I ask you a question, citizen?
Certainly.
How did you know that you were fit to lead us, to step up and preach revolution?
I didn't. People looked to me, and I looked around, and there was no one for me to look to. So it was me. I don't know that anyone who wants very badly to lead is fit to do so. Sometimes you find yourself inspiring people, and the best you can do is try to continue to inspire them and hope that you speak wisely and hope that you guide them well. You inspire people. people recognize you. You are, surely you have to realize this.
In Poland, our leaders spoke of Poland for the Poles. They told us we had to throw off the Russian yoke and determine our own destiny. But you and the other communard leaders, you don't talk about the French very much. You don't talk about the German enemy. You talk about the workers, about the people. And I'm honored that you see my place is among you. I'm not a Pole. I'm a worker. And if you think I should step up to try to lead, point me in the direction, and I'll see what I can do.
Well, it's up to you. Decide, if there is a direction that interests you, uh, you should certainly do that. But I I hear the defense committee could use more people.
So I say I'll patch up this last hole in the barricade and then maybe see if I can speak to them.
I'm glad to hear that, citizen. I think I've seen.
Good stuff, folks. Do people want to take a break now before we move to Act 2, or?
Maybe 5-minute break.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes then. Huzzah. Okay. So I put up some new placards for us. Rifles for free. Surplus rifles will be distributed to anyone who asks for one. The Committee of Public Morality. Cafes will close from midnight to 6 in the morning. All gambling houses will immediately be closed by the National Guard, and any woman who is a prostitute is to be arrested in the street. And the Freemasons March. The Freemasons declare their support for the Commune, marching in full regalia down the avenues. Any character can ask a Mason to induct them into the order. If the Mason agrees, add Freemason to your titles. But before we can go and have all that kind of fun, I'm afraid we must do our homework. With this one, we're going to get Jean, Felix, and Amanda. So that's me, John, and me. Part 2, First Defeats, Last Defiance, April 3rd to May 20th, 1871, in which the Commune fights the first battles of the Civil War, and paranoia increases. The mood is grim, paranoid, and falsely confident, which is my personal favorite mode. On April 3rd, the National Guard and many women marched out of Paris toward Versailles. Everyone was sure the army wouldn't shoot fellow citizens. The Versailles forces had quietly recaptured forts along the way. They mercilessly cut down the marchers, executing anyone who surrendered. The Commune promised to retaliate by killing hostages. The second siege of Paris had begun.
The Commune began to adapt to war. Every man between 18 and 40 years old had to serve in the National Guard. The political police hunted for treason. Searches for men who did not report for the Guard became intrusive and even violent. But when the commander called for 12,000 men to muster, fewer than 2,000 actually came.
On May 9th, Fort Issy, crucial to the defense of Paris, fell after weeks of heavy fighting. The Commune created a Committee of Public Safety and gave it dictatorial powers. Meanwhile, the work of the Commune continued, becoming more radical, more socialist, and more egalitarian as the final showdown loomed nearer. So I kicked the placards, drew 3 new ones. This turn is going to be Bethany, Jesse, John, Kat, Bethany, and Jesse. So at most, 1 total character out of all of us can die in this part. Have fun, play around with it, see what happens. Once we've finished at least 6 scenes and there's consensus to move on, we're going to do another little montage. This montage will be our characters on the eve of the final battle for Paris. And it'll work just like the first one, just give us a little glimpse. And then we'll move on to part 3, the Bloody Week, which, don't worry, it's going to be fine. Everything turns out fine in the end. Well, actually, not really, because the rules state that one of your characters must die. So, have fun. So, Bethany goes first this turn.
Okay, let's see. What does roll for your party had to say? Oh, okay. Yeah. So this what is it called? The Committee of Public Morality thing here. Whoops. So I think Tariq comes across Amanda out, playing her trade, and he's with someone else in the National Guard.
Blodo, I guess that's the. Unless you want it just to be an NPC.
I think an NPC. Sure. I think this person doesn't have a major role in the scene except to be like a, like
spear carrier.
Yeah. Well, man, sorry, my eyes are watering staring at the screen and/or smoke. Well, that didn't help at all. Okay. So I think that. Hmm. Yeah. He does. He spots Amanda like at a distance and tells this other guy to like go ahead. Why don't you go on that way and then I'll meet up with you. Um, and then approaches Amanda and
Tariq. She's wearing another one of those nice bourgeois lady dresses and opens up not the cigarette case because she sold that, but
right, yeah.
she has like a little wooden case that she's using, but she still has some of the cigarettes and lights one for Tariq
Oh yeah.
very carefully.
Yeah, fake one.
Cigarette.
Thank you. You know, you can't. Shouldn't be out here. It's dangerous. They're this public decency people. They're cracking down. I don't know what to tell you, but it's not safe. You should be. I mean, I'm glad it was me who saw you, but
But what am I supposed to do for bread?
that that is an excellent question. Um, anything else? Anything? I don't.
Anything else? Shall I run for president of France?
Oh, I don't. I don't know. I just know that we are. Uh, I I can't always be the one to patrol the street. I
Well, what can I do? I suppose I could only work from the apartment, but how will people find me?
ah. I think that's a good idea if you can.
Well,
People know you.
that's wonderful. Do you, do you do you often say such charming things to women in your native country, Tariq?
Oh, I mean that people. You're well known enough. I should be able to find you. I, I wish I had an answer to this. But
I wish I do too.
I know you're in danger here, and if you can find a way to work from your apartment, that would be better. I'll try to keep being the one on this street, but I don't I don't know how long I can do that. I just
I think she just suddenly, unexpectedly breaks down and starts to weep. Like, what am I going to do? Camille is hungry every day. He's begging for food. And little Iska, she's never home now because she's got committee meetings. And I'm all alone here. And now now it's very easy for these generals and these committee members to say kick the whores off the street of Paris. But will they will they feed me? Will they even the National Guardsmen get 30 sous a day? I mean, of course, I suppose I'm not putting my life on the line. I have nothing to sell but this. Unless you should want I become a thief.
to be honest, we're not arresting thieves. Maybe you should.
Oh, I respect your honesty, Tariq. How can I repay you for this kindness you have shown me?
That's it would be a kindness if I had a real answer for you. This
Do you
is no kindness.
just do you not desire me at all, Tariq? If you don't, that's fine. There's plenty of men in Paris.
It's not that. It's not that, I promise you. Um,
Oh, all right. Are you married? Perhaps you have 3 or 4 wives back home.
no.
Jesus, Amanda's the worst. Okay. Hurry.
um, Lotus is my friend. I wouldn't feel right.
Of course. Well, no. You're right. You're right. You're right.
I mean, I know yeah, I know this is your job. I know that she's fine with it. I don't know. It's more personal. If I'm her friend, I don't know. It doesn't seem quite right.
It's all right. It's all right. I have loved you for your honor. I can't expect you to sell that for what I have to offer. And she turns on her heel and walks away.
All right, I think that's scene.
Jesse, you're up.
So I think this scene is going to be. So you see Josephine carrying something wrapped in surprisingly clean linens, given the dirt that surrounds her. And it's around sunset, and she's making her way to the barracks to bring some food to Jean for supper. But she doesn't get there. She doesn't make it there, because she comes across, or maybe eventually she makes it there, but in the moment, she comes across Felix and Louise. Maybe they're sitting in a little park. It's not in the best shape. They don't have the resources to necessarily keep it up the way they should, but it's still there. And they're in very, very animated conversation. And Louise has heard. I don't do it. So Louise walks up to Felix, walks up to them, and says, Felix, I recently heard someone recite for me one of your revolutionary poems. And I need to know, how do you make something important as it is? You make something so dirty sound so bright? You're muted, John. I don't know if
that. My dear woman, isn't that the essence of life? I mean, we transform. We take the power of the heart, the soul, and we transform it into a thing of beauty. I'm passionate about this. What we're all doing here, this charge that Louise is leading, and I just speak from my heart, and I try to plant seeds and let them blossom. But I appreciate your even reading my poems or liking them, your comments.
I'm not sure I like them. I'm not sure I liked it. It took this thing that we're trying to make, that we have given up so much for, our country, the people we love, our city. We have it, but it feels barely ours anymore. And that's all good and well. Revolution is what we need. But what the poetry, the lies the poems tell about what it's like, about how it feels. I don't know, citizen. I don't.
Well, it's to me they're not lies. To me, perhaps I'm blind to. Perhaps I'm blinded by this passion I have, but to me, I'm expressing truths to myself. But it makes me sad to hear that you. Do you feel that do you feel that we're in error with this course, aside from my poems?
The revolution is worth the cost, but when you spend your days scrubbing the blood out of the uniforms of soldiers that our medics were not able to treat, just so that they can be turned over to our children to fill those gaps in the lines and those holes in the barricades. Someone needs to speak to that truth. Citizen Louise Michel, who is speaking for that feeling? The feeling of loss and cost and labor. Because that's what this is about, labor, right?
It is. It is. One day the history books hopefully will remember this part of it, but I believe that to dwell on the hardships of this time would not would not be, it would not help. People need something to strive toward, and maybe Felix's poems go too far. Maybe we need some acknowledgement that everything is not bright and shiny and clean. But people need to feel that we're aiming for something. We're headed somewhere. That all this is in pursuit of that bright, shining goal. Have you ever considered maybe you're the one who should speak for the workers, who should speak for, we're all workers, but you are You have always been a worker, and you're continuing. You're doing the same thing now as you always have been. That perspective is important. You are the heart of this movement.
I sort of shake my head sadly and I say, and then would you go and wash the blood out of the uniforms of the dead soldiers with those hands? And I say, you remind me that I do have somewhere to go. My husband needs his supper. I'm sorry to have wasted all. You have very important things to discuss, I'm sure. And she turns around and walks away. And see, unless the two of you want to have a little follow up to that.
Boy, that family really harangues the hell out of Felix and Louis.
They probably deserve it.
Tough issue.
Let's see. Bethany, Jesse, John is your scene.
Oh, it's my scene?
It is.
Oh, okay, great. Let's see. I had a thought for that. Damn. Okay. It's okay. Felix, no, I don't really like that. Felix, Felix and Louise decide to, they've been moved by this, moved and pained by this run-in with Josephine. And they've been discussing, sort of the theoretics of this movement and the sort of more general things. But they, not that Louise isn't always involved in the nuts and bolts and the painful details, but they decide that they should go to the line where Jean is and where Josephine is going to bring this meal. To discuss further and commiserate with and see the people that are getting injured and wounded and even killed on the front lines of this confrontation. And as they arrive in this area, they see the guardsmen just in such okay, I found something on the in such kind of frightened by the severity that all of these measures have taken, like what they're facing militaristically, I mean the enemy, the severity of the commune itself, these crackdowns on prostitution, on morality, and they're witnessing kind of not lack of discipline, but people questioning. And Felix turns to Louise and says, are we on the right track here? I mean, we can't turn back, obviously. We know what we're asking for is what we're searching for is the right thing for the people. But is it the right thing to, I mean, will we be a people? Will we make it out of this alive? Are we asking too much? of ourselves and of our group. I mean, for instance, my a woman that I know very well is going to be just completely is devastated by this morality rule, and she's meant to be killed. I'm such a fervent believer, um, but reassure me that we're on the right path.
Not every decision made by people who are not used to being in power will be correct every time. I know. I think we are on the right path. I have no doubt about that. The decision's on the way. You're right. There are some of the rules these new committees are creating are unfair, and I believe that we have ultimately we are on. If we can get past this, if we can stay the course, then we will create a great new society of workers and of the people. But it will not be perfect, and it's certainly not perfect now. You're absolutely right about that.
I think that Jean also could be. We could encounter Jean if that makes sense, or
Yeah.
Absolutely. You want me in there?
Sure.
Okay. So John comes up and it's quite clear he's in a punishment battalion. He's like doing some heavy labor. And he's got like one arm kind of in a sling. He can take it out from time to time, but he's clearly favoring his other arm. And he looks up and is, citizens, what are you doing here? This is the front lines. It's dangerous here.
It's important for everyone to know the sacrifices you're making here.
Ah, sacrifices. Have you seen my wife tonight?
yeah, Jean. She spoke deeply from her soul to us.
Hunger will do that. I lost my job, well, I kept my National Guard job, but I lost my job. I can't be a butcher anymore. Do you know what a mitrailleuse is, citizens? It is a most infernal device. It's several rifle barrels wrapped together, and they can be fired with extraordinary rapidity. We, of course, have very few of them here. When we marched on Versailles, we discovered they had very many of them. I am a strong man, but I did not have the strength to pull people back once we saw what those weapons could do. And so I watched while they cut down our comrades. I can't be a butcher anymore. That's why I'm doing this work, because I was the company butcher and I'll defend us. I'll defend us now more than ever. But this revolution's going to have a cost. Yeah, I'm sure you already know that. I don't know what I'm saying. I lost some comrades. I no longer feel like a free man.
That's all anyone can ask. Yes. And we all hope that someday soon you will feel like a free man again.
Do me a favor, citizen. Should I fall, please look after my wife. I think she wants to take some piece of their hide with her when they come.
I will.
And I'm going to spend the night with you here. Is there an extra gun? Is there a position that I can take?
John looks around and calls to his companions. Hey, messieurs! Our friend the poet is here. Let's give him a gun. Come on, have a drink with me.
In order to, I mean, it's not enough to just simply write. I need to be. There's no reason that I shouldn't be bearing this, the full pain that you on the front line are bearing.
That's the spirit. They said Victor Hugo nearly got killed in 32. Maybe you can be killed. You'll be better than Victor Hugo then.
Guess that's the scene.
Okay. Cool. I really want to see Jean and Josephine at home. But I also feel like this has been the night of their family. I'd like... Yes, that's the... Yeah, that... No, right. I'd like... Oh, bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I'd like Amanda and Louise and Camille in this scene. Let's say it's at the schoolroom. Louise is finished teaching for the day. Camille is staying, waiting for Amanda to arrive because, Amanda usually sleeps until the early afternoon. And so Amanda comes down, dressed in yet another one of the nice bourgeois dresses that the costume department's having fun with this character. And she comes in and sits down next to Camille and is kind of just rubbing his head. Like, did you learn a lot today, Camille? Did you learn how to count, to add and cipher and...
Well, Mama, I don't know. I mean, I'm learning mostly just about good people and bad people and about what what the world will be someday. I used to, I don't know, I miss learning about sailing ships and and victories and battles. I have to say, I even miss math, but we're not really learning about numbers and math so much.
Did did you draw today?
Um, yeah, we did draw a little bit. Do you see
Good.
my picture of the here's a picture of the commune flag.
You do well, citizen Michel, to let them draw. Art's so crucial, don't you think?
It's important to let them use their minds and their creativity.
When I was a little younger, I knew a lot of artists.
Are any of them still alive?
Oh yes, I think Edouard's outside the city. He got a pass from somebody, probably Courbet. I wonder how old Gustave is doing. He was a fun man. Him and his mistress used to come to the atelier all the time. Always a bottle of champagne and some some joke or another. Crazy Irish lady. Oh, there were so many, but do you do you do you paint, citizen?
I used to. Never well. I haven't in a long time, except occasionally, with the students, but for myself, no, not anymore.
I I don't know how to paint. Every now and then one of them would jab a brush into my fist and tell me to do something, and mostly they did it to laugh, and I would laugh because we were all drunk. But there's a painting Edouard did of me. He didn't even use it. He thought it wasn't good enough for the gallery show, and so I don't know what he did. Gave it to one of his students to throw it out. I would have kept it. It was just me, a nude, because he preferred that. But he painted me as if I was some Grecian goddess, uh, Venus or Minerva, someone like that. And he painted a halo, is that what they call it around me? An aura of some kind. It it was at once a picture like something I've seen at a church, but on the other hand, it was very central because that was Edward's specialty.
If I ever see it or hear of it, I'll make sure you get it.
When he was painting it, I didn't pay any attention because when you're a model, you have to just find a way to pass the time. But after I looked at it, and it was me, but more. I was more than beautiful. I was, and I felt it in me. Isn't that strange? I stood 17 hours in that atelier in the cold, in the nude, with barely a cup of tea to keep me warm when he would take a break. All I remember was the brutal grind of doing that. And yet, as soon as I saw that painting, I felt like I had been inside that. What I wanted more than anything is my son to feel that way sometimes. That maybe he would, I don't know, not necessarily be a great artist, but I don't know what causes that. It's not love. Edouard never loved me. None of them did. I slept with all of them, and none of them loved me. I had hoped, behind all my cynicism, I had hoped that Lodo was right. Susan Michelle, is it possible to teach our children to feel this way? Or is this just something for the finer people?
No, I think any child, any person can feel this way. I think you have to look for the possibilities, something that they have an affinity for, something that reflects what the intersection between what you see in them and what they see in themselves, and then encourage that with all your might.
I've seen you and Lodo Iska on the barricades when they're firing at us. And you look like how I felt. Is that how you feel?
Sometimes. I'll tell you a secret, though. It's only sometimes. It's only when everything aligns perfectly. It's only when those brief moments when we beat them back, and I feel that I contributed to that. That is partly my doing.
All right. Oh. I've never thought of myself as a patriot, just a Frenchwoman. But maybe there's something to that. Isn't there, Camille? I know that you want to be a patriot. You can die for your country, yes?
Yeah, I'm a warrior. I'm a fighter, Mama. But can we go meet that painter someday? Can we go find him?
When this is all over, I'm sure he'll come back to Paris.
When would you see him last?
Oh, about 7 months before you were born.
Oh, okay.
He comes back, we'll put him to work.
Bien sûr. All right, that's my scene. Bethany, you're up next.
Okay. What do we have here? And the problem with Louise is that she's already involved in everything. So by the time I actually frame a scene with her, I'm like, everything's covered. It's all good.
Frame with Tariq. We haven't heard too much from Tariq this this thing, I think.
That's true. Let's see. So, what is going on in the world? Um, I think, hmm. What is Tariq doing? So Tariq's kind of been like assigned to this, committee for public safety or public decency. Are they the same committee or are they two different things?
Whatever. Oh, the Committee of Public Safety, they're sort of an executive council.
Okay.
Modeled after the original one that, ran the terror.
Right, okay. Anyway, yeah, so he's been assigned to this, and the longer he works, patrolling the streets against like their own people when there are actual enemies to fight, the more disillusioned he's getting. And I think um hmm I think he runs into, who would he run into? Um, maybe Lodowiska, although I've had a scene with those two before, but they both have not been in this too much. So yeah, Tariq runs into Lodowiska, or Lodowiska. There we go. Wrong. I cannot pronounce her name. And
My friends call me Lodo Citizen.
I can see why. Lodo, have you heard of? I don't know. Have you heard what they're asking us to do now? They're asking us to arrest our own people. There's an army attacking us, and we're going after prostitutes. Why? Do you?
Come, citizen. And I think, like, her face looks conflicted, but the words that come out of, like, she's like, it almost seems like it's painful for her to say this, but the words that come out of her mouth are, come, citizen. You know as well as I do that we can't defend from the outside if there's corruption on the inside.
It's not spies we're arresting. It's just people.
We have to live our ideals, Tariq. All of us, not just some of us. Here, have a drink. And I think she has a she has like just not a lot, but she's managed to have like somehow or another she got her hands on a little bit of I mean, I guess it's just like basically vodka, right? It's cheap distilled liquor that someone is making somewhere in the city.
Right.
And she says, let's share a drink and toast the health of the revolution, the health of the commune.
All right. And he kind of like leans against the wall and takes a drink. And you know people who are higher up than I do, and can you convince anyone that we should be concentrating on the people attacking us from outside, not inside? We're not fixing corruption here. We're only turning our own people against us.
Revolution can only succeed when like she's clearly parroting something she heard from Louise Michel. Like it's just like a rote speech that she's heard somewhere. Revolution can only succeed when the hearts of the revolutionaries are pure for their brothers and sisters. And we must, it does no good to defeat the enemy outside if there's bourgeois among us. We will just be them, and then what?
Revolution can't succeed when the revolutionaries are left either.
And others will come and fill our place. It can't be stopped. But we must hold strong.
Tell Amanda I said hello. I think that's seen.
Fantastic.
Well, you get that chance now, Jesse. It's your turn.
So that's not exactly what I'm going to do, but we're gonna
Sure.
we're gonna take from there. I think that shook Lodo up a lot, and like she sort of obviously she believes in revolution. She loves Amanda. She does not. She's sort of come around intellectually to sort of seeing that maybe Amanda needs to shed some of her bourgeois desires and trappings, but she's very shaken up by that conversation because she also doesn't think Amanda should be executed. I think she's a little drunk. Also, like they don't drink very much. There's not a lot to go around, and that little bit of liquor went to her head, and she goes back to the apartment maybe to sort of have it out with Amanda, but Amanda's not there, and Camille is. And I think what Lodovica does is she says, Camille, it's time for you to learn how to shoot. And she takes him to the barracks, and the two of them walk in, and Jean is there. And she says, Jean, let's get down a rifle and see if we can't teach this young man how to fight for the revolution. That's all he wants to do.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? I'm not
He has
giving a
to-
12-year-old a gun.
He has to learn sometimes. This is a safe place. Better that than when they shove one in his hand to fill that to plug the hole that you and I left when we fall.
Lodoiska, can I have a word with you? You've said Lodoiska is small, right?
Yes, she's not big.
John is. He just sort of drags her, but he doesn't drag her far enough away to cover up how loudly their two voices carry, because I think they both have voices that carry. So Camille is totally hearing all this. I don't want that kid going out there. Do you know what it's like? My God, you were in Warsaw. I read in the papers what happened there. That's what they're gonna do here. You should be working on getting that kid out of here, and you whatever Amanda. He's getting all bashful. Well, you should get them out of here while you still can.
He's 12 years old. That's not so young. 2, 3 years. When did you start a trade? When did you have to start taking care of yourself? How old were you yourself? How old were you?
I helped my father on his farm when I was, a small lad. But then, I came here, but I was 15. I was big. I could work like the older men.
And
Camille is small and, petite.
You were never given a rifle to protect the chickens?
If we could afford a rifle, you think we would have come to Paris to, dig up paving stones?
But in principle.
In principle, my principles are don't teach 12-year-olds how to be assassins. That's my principle.
I'm not asking
Call
him
me
to be an
old-fashioned.
assassin. He should know his way around a gun. If he has to pick it up, he should know how to use it, and he should know how not to hurt himself.
They'll kill him if they see him with a gun. You know that.
They'll kill him if they see him without
He's
one.
got a better chance if he just looks like some kid. They see him with a gun, they're gonna say he's one of us.
He's in here. They're going to say he's one of us.
You don't know that. Maybe, they don't want to kill all the kids. They can't want to kill all the kids. That's ridiculous. Look, I know what they want to do. They want to kill Parisians. It doesn't matter, I come from Alsace. I guess I'm German now, technically. But to kill the kids. Did that happen in Warsaw?
It happened in Warsaw, and it will happen here.
Psst, those were Russians. You're always telling me how terrible they are.
They're the same bourgeois, aristocratic.
Okay, here we go.
Look, take a walk for 10 minutes. I just want to show him how it works. Let him see how it feels to fire it. Maybe scare him a little bit so that he doesn't want to pick it up. Because right now he's excited, but he should know how to treat a weapon.
Okay. You want him to learn how to shoot? I have an idea. There's a dog. Likes to come around the trash heap. Because, we go through a lot of food up here on the walls. Get him to shoot the dog. Because if you're going to teach him how to shoot and you're going to teach him how to kill, then make sure his baptism is in blood. Because that's what you're asking him to do.
And
I don't know if you have any kids, citizen. But that's what you're asking.
I think it's a good idea. But first, let's just make sure he knows his way around the thing.
Fine. He can shoot my gun.
So I think I don't want to drag the scene out too long, but I think Camille, what do you say? You ready? You ready for some target practice?
I don't want to. I want my mom. I take me back to my mom.
I thought you told me you were strong.
I am strong, but
I thought you told me you were ready.
this you're kind of scaring me.
So here's what I think happens. I think she's getting very frustrated, and she's like, "Here, let me show you." And there's some place where they do target practice, and she sort of like drags him there with the rifle, and she holds it up to her shoulder, and she shoots, and she tries to end, and it's jammed, and she's frustrated. She's frustrated with herself. She's frustrated with Jean. She's frustrated with Camille. No one seems to understand the importance of knowing how to fight. And I think I have no idea mechanically if this makes any sense in terms of how 19th century rifles worked. But I think she, like, even though she knows how to handle a rifle very well and knows that she should just kind of like take it apart, and she just sort of slams the butt against the ground once, twice, and then the third time, it goes off and she shoots herself in the face, and that's Lodovica.
Nice.
Lodovica.
Okay. Well, I'm glad somebody took advantage of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So a small note on that. That means in the next act you don't have to kill your remaining character because I want you to make a terrible choice. Okay. So let's take a little montage around the characters. Just do the same thing we did before. Just kind of show us one last glimpse of our characters before the army comes crashing through the walls and everything will go to hell. I guess we can start with Bethany.
I think I think Drake has just heard of Lodovica's death. And I think that's kind of the last straw for him. He just turns around and leaves like the area he was assigned to patrol. And he goes to the barricade and waits to fight the real enemy.
Cool. Jesse?
So I think, if you're okay with this, Kat, I think Jean comes home, maybe after escorting Camille back to where, back home, and tells Josephine what happened. And I think she doesn't say anything, but the camera is like sort of as he sort of walks in and the camera's over his shoulder, I'm focusing on Josephine's face, and as he's sort of repeating over this argument that he had with Lodovica before her death, you just see Josephine's face sort of getting more and more, like her mouth is getting smaller and smaller, and her eyebrows are sort of getting more and more furrowed. And then, meanwhile, the camera is sort of like slowly closing in on her face, so that until on the end, you just sort of, it's just like from here, like very, very close up. And then at the end, there's just like a very quick, like there's a motion where she turns around and it's the back of her head, but it's just darkness. And then she gets up and walks away, and you sort of see that as she walks out of the room quietly.
Okay, wow, that's gonna turn out well.
Is this a game about happy endings?
Yeah, definitely. When you read the novel the third time, Ahab and the whale become friends. John?
Okay, so Felix is banging on the door of Amanda's apartment, and just banging and banging and banging, and Camille doesn't know what to do, doesn't know whether to open it or not. Amanda's asleep, but Amanda wakes up and comes and opens it, and Felix is just saying, you know, I have to speak to you. I have to. I need help. I have to. Ludoviska, she's dead. She's dead. I can't. What are we gonna do? I can't take it. And you, you know, I'm so sorry to be the one to break this news to you. But he wouldn't have, because Camille already came home. No, he's not breaking the news. He's just, you know, can we commiserate? And he falls into her arms, and is just like a little sobbing puppy.
Cool. Let me build on that. So Felix sinks into her arms, and she's just standing there stunned for a moment, then has one of those kind of apocalyptic quivers and just throws him up, slaps him in the face, says, "Get out of here, you goddamn scribbler!" And, you know, just sort of chases him down the stairs, and there would be some kind of time jump cut to her sitting in the middle of her apartment, just howling with grief, tears pouring out of her eyes, kneeling on the floor and just ripping all those dresses to pieces with her bare hands, while Camille is kind of huddled in the corner. That's Amanda.
Yeah.
Bethany again.
Louise is talking to various heads of the various committees, just sort of getting like updates on what's going on, and they're all discussing things, and it's clear that like there is no good news. It's all bad. People are discouraged, and they're and Louise is trying to do the same, like, you know, trying to be inspiring, but still acknowledge that, like, because they're not she knows they're not willing to be lied to anymore. Like, she's not gonna tell them, or they're not gonna believe anyway, that like this is all gonna turn out great. Everything's gonna be perfect. We're all gonna survive this. So she starts talking like about, you know, how all the sacrifice will be worth it in the end, and then just looks around at people and trails off, and then says, It doesn't matter at this point what I say or what you believe. What matters is they're coming to kill us, and we can't let them. That's all.
Jesse, Lodo is dead, but that doesn't mean we can't check in on her or have a flashback or something.
I think that the scene is her funeral, right? And I think people are at a little bit of a loss as what to do because, on the one hand, they've rejected the church, right? So the sort of the religious trappings of a funeral are not something that they would be interested in. It's really not something she would have been interested in. And also her death was like, if she died as a martyr for the revolution, she would have, like, maybe they would have had a better idea, but it was stupid, right? Like, it was an accidental death, basically meaningless. And so I think maybe what you see is, you know what? No, I don't think you. I think what you see is all we get is Amanda and Camille, and there may have been other people there, but what we get to see is Amanda and Camille walking away as her grave is being filled.
Brutal. John?
Camille is with some of his schoolmates the next day after that scene of the evening, and they're walking to go to the little broken schoolroom to probably have a lesson by Louise, and he hits a kid from behind that's ahead of him and just says, "Get out of my way." And runs ahead on his own. But he's just very torn up. He's never had a father. He's had two mothers for a while, but he didn't know the association with the mother. The mother's dead. He had that weird situation of being forced to shoot a gun. And he's entering a strange period of psychological period.
Okay. So we see Jean's company, the National Guard, is marching through the streets. Yeah, the ones that mustered. A lot of them seem to be, maybe they're wearing civilian pants or something, because it's pretty clear they're going to try and ditch their uniform the minute they catch a sight of an army officer. But John isn't. John's there. And as they pass by the dressing station where Josephine is, he falls out of line, slings his rifle, runs over, and just wraps her in that big bear hug. And they have this long pause where they're just wrapped together like that. And then he lets go, kind of puts his hands on her elbows, nods, and then hurries up and rejoins his unit. Cool. I think we can just plow straight on if everybody's willing. Cool. Okay. Part 3, The Bloody Week, May 21st through 28th. Le Semaine Sanglante. The mood is frenzied, violent, and morbid. Josephine, tell us about it. You're muted.
Thanks. Sorry about that. On May 21st, the army invaded Paris. The communards defended the city from street barricades, but without organization, each section fighting on its own. The city burned from shelling or revenge. How do you pronounce that? The Tuileries?
Tuileries, actually.
The Tuileries Palace, once home to the emperor, the Hôtel de Ville, and the Palais Royal were all destroyed by the flames. The armory massacred anyone that they thought was part of the commune. The bourgeois of the city happily denounced their neighbors to the vengeance of the government. On May 28th, the last survivors surrendered at dawn. Many were executed. Over 40,000 prisoners were imprisoned at Camp Sartori outside Versailles. The commune was over.
Okay, in this section, characters will die. If you refresh the roll for your party room, you'll see that I have added the Bloody Week cards. Ha ha ha. They live up to their name. They're just like the placards, and we use them in exactly the same way, except they're just hella more grin. So, at some point in this round, each player must decide which one of their characters dies during Bloody Week. If a player only has one character, that character must survive. So this turn, it is going to be Jesse, John, Kat, Bethany, Jesse, and John. On your turn, the scene you narrate can include the death of your character in the scene, or you can simply narrate it at the beginning, or any other combination that seems like it would be interesting. It is never necessary to use your scene to show how your character dies. Sometimes it's more interesting to check in on the character that survives. If another player agrees, you can include the death of your character in a scene they are narrating. If after a scene that's used a Bloody Week card, we feel like we've got everything, then we'll discard and draw another card. And then after this, we'll go to the epilogue where we'll have to make a terrible choice at Satori. Okay, Jesse, take us in.
So I think the scene is, we haven't really had that scene with Josephine and John at home in a real way, and I think it's time to do that. I think this is, we're sitting. I have not really described Josephine physically yet. The thing I should do. So I think she has dark hair, and she's 32, but she hasn't aged terribly well, and she's aged a lot in the past few months.
You sound like you found a picture of Josephine Marche online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I found a picture of her.
Oh, wow, I want to take a look at it later. But so she looks, she's in her early 30s. She could be in her late 40s. Her hair was dark, but it's gone mostly gray by now. Even though that was not the case before the commune. Her hands are rough. Like her husband, she is sort of big, thick, wide wrists. And I think this is the moment when they know, what's the word on the card, the way the card puts it, right? The supreme hour has begun, right? He's about to have to go off to join his troop for the last defense of the city, or not do that, right? Those are sort of his choices, and I think she's trying to talk him out of it. John, it's over. We tried, we fought. So many of us died. But it's over now. All that's left is death, and you don't need that. We'll burn your uniform, Stay here. Don't go.
He wraps her hands in his big paw. He's like, I have to buy time for everyone else. I have to fight with my comrades for now. I never wanted this. But it came. I'm going to see this to the end. And I want to run. I love you so much. But for just a little while, I felt like a human being, Josephine. That's the way I want to die.
What does a human being feel like, John? Because I don't know.
Not like this. Not like not a place where you buried four children.
Don't tell me what it's not. You said you felt like a human being. What was that feeling?
I felt for just a second that what I did mattered.
Which second was that? Was that the second that Lodiska shot herself in the face by mistake? And you had to watch that? Which death had meaning?
So what do you want me to do? Turn my back on everyone? They're my brothers. We're fighting. We're fighting. Go ahead.
So are the soldiers coming into the city. They're there under a French flag.
They're being forced into it by their officers. And then I grew up among those people. They don't mind shooting Parisians, okay, but we can buy some time. It's still possible to run over and try and get through the German lines.
So let's do that. You and me together.
After all these many years of us struggling, losing the children, you want me to be a coward at the end?
No. I want you, and and she opens her eyes and looks him right in the face and says, I want you to be brave enough to come with me and not run away to die.
Do you mind if I jump in here to exercise my death privilege?
Absolutely.
Cool.
I mean, I don't mind. Do it.
So he looks irresolute for a moment, then kind of, his face is buried, his brow is furrowed. He's so angry, and then he looks up and into her eyes, and he remembers. And so he nods, and we get a little montage of them packing a bag hurriedly. He throws off his uniform, drops his rifle in a corner. They're getting ready to leave, and they go out into the street. And the streets are packed with people trying to do the same thing, all crushed together, trying to move slowly. And then around a corner comes a group of hussars, and it's like that moment in a disaster movie when they see the monster, and there's that horrible shriek from the entire crowd as everybody tries to run, as the cavalrymen draw their swords and get ready to charge. And John looks up, kisses Josephine quickly, runs back, shouting, "Long live the Republic! Long live the Commune!" He leaps up at one of the first hussars riding down, and for a second it looks like it's going to be that action movie scene where the big bear of the guy comes down and kicks everyone's ass, and then the guy right behind him blows his brains out with a revolver. That's John.
Wow.
Scene?
Scene.
John, you're up.
You're muted.
Felix is being dragged by two men through the door of an old, of a sort of dilapidated but sort of older mansiony dilapidated thing that's acting as a as one of these tribunal stations, and he's pulled into the room, and there's this makeshift tribunal of several people sitting at a table, and the guys that are pulling him, his clothes are ripped, and he's being dragged by his back, and the two guys say that they found him with a handful of books and notebooks full of communist poems and literature and sedition, um, and they kick him onto the ground, and and the tribunal members just say, "Kill him," and they take him outside and just and and throw him with a bunch of other people that are out there, or a few other people, and then they just mow them down. Um, Shoot, I didn't really build in any interaction into that scene, but yeah.
Totally okay to just. Cool. Oh, hey, it's me. Okay. I think we need. Oh, yes. Amanda, Camille, and Tariq. Of course, yes.
Yep.
So we get that picture of refugee people. Amanda's got a hat clapped on her head. She's wearing a very ordinary dress. Has a big carpet bag that she's trying to drag along. She's pulling Camille's hand, and they turn a corner and they realize they're like coming right smack dab into a rifle pit with. And Tariq turns around and sees the two of them, and probably is freaking out that they're there.
Amanda,
What?
You shouldn't be here.
No, we need to get out of here. We need someone to help us.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Is there any way we can get out of here alive?
And yeah, I think Tariq just like abandons his post and goes with them and like tries to find a way out. He knows where like their soldiers are. So that's a start.
I think as they're running, without even realizing it, Amanda slips her hand into his and like just clutches it very tightly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's let that be their last scene. They're just struggling away through the rubble.
Yeah, they're running away hand in hand, two of them and Camille.
If anyone's ever interested, I highly recommend looking around for some pictures of what Paris looked like at the end of the Bloody Week, because it looked like Belgian towns after the Germans got done with them. The destruction was massive, and no one talks about it. So, and Bethany, it's your scene again.
Oh, okay.
Jesse will wrap us up.
All right. Hmm. I think Louise sees that same the same group that mowed Jean and that group down, and she sees them coming, and I think she just grabs a pistol and walks out and starts shooting. She expected to die at the beginning of this and didn't, so, you know, past few weeks have been a little, an extra bonus, and I think she just goes out fighting, and sooner or later, I think she hits a few of them, and then someone shoots her. She falls, and that's Louise.
Okay, Jesse.
So, what I think happens is someone recognizes Louise's body. And Louise was a leader of the communards, and someone who taught, even if she wasn't like all the way up at the top of the very, very level hierarchy. She was, someone whose voice was heard, and it was important to the Versailles government to make an example of her, even though they couldn't have a public trial and execution. So I think what we see is, look at that, the card. Where is it? So I think that at the end of a day of court martial, when you have this long line of as the card describes, right? There's a long line of people sort of being summarily executed, and then at the end of the end of the day, a loud sort of proclamation is read, describing all the significant personages who were killed in the fighting and whose bodies were discovered, and the bodies are actually displayed as sort of an example of even these people did not manage to escape the grasp of the state. And then at the end, the camera pans away from Louise's body on display, up on by the firing squad, and it pans around to Josephine, who was sort of in the back of the people watching the executions, these public executions, and she turns around and walks away, and that's the scene.
Okay, cool. Let me do some housework here. Cool. Yep. All right. The last bit, the epilogue. Satari. Let me just pull that up. Epilogue Satari, 1871 to 1872. The commune is not dead. Camille's player reads. You're muted again, John.
Between 10,000 and 30,000 people died during Bloody Week. Nobody knows the exact number. At Satori, disease and hunger killed many prisoners. Others were shot with no trial or only a perfunctory court-martial. In Algeria, the rebellion was crushed. The country was safe again for colonization. Some communards were put on trial. Most chose not to cooperate with the government forces, remaining contemptuous and defiant to their death. Many were sentenced to death, others deported to the colonies or given hard labor. Some managed to escape into exile. In 1881, a general amnesty was announced. Some of the surviving communards returned home, others never did.
Okay. So if you go to the roll for your party room, you'll see there's a bunch of new decks there. Let me explain. Also, you'll probably want to turn back on hidden draws. So, each character who survived must make a terrible choice of the three options available. You may remain defiant and hope that you go to trial, where you can face your accusers. You can attempt to cooperate in the hope that you will get a lesser sentence, or you can try and attempt to escape in the confusion and get into exile. When you've made your choice, draw one and only one card from the appropriate deck. Read your fate on the back without revealing it. Now, your character's titles may affect your fate. If for some reason your character has a title that would actually apply to multiple fates, you can choose whichever one you feel is more interesting. Some cards will require you to deal with another player by asking them questions or altering the fate of their character. None of the cards are guaranteed to give you the result, defiance, cooperation, or escape that you might want. And death is still possible no matter which deck you draw from. However, one of the attempt escape cards lets that character escape into exile with no other conditions. Then we'll just take some turns narrating a brief epilogue scene for your character that reveals their fate. You can include what happens to them after the amnesty in 1881 if you like. So, after that, make your choice, and yeah, I know which one I'm going for.
Okay.
Okay. You don't have to do any order. I actually can affect another player. So do you want me to go first, or?
Sure.
Okay. So, Amanda, being someone who always sees the main chance, cooperates. She's more than willing to turn state's evidence on people. And in this, she actually has a plan. Because they've caught all of them. They've caught her and Camille and Tariq. And she offers to inform on people in the hope that she will receive a lesser sentence and can save Camille. And in that hope, she is in fact lucky. She rats out some people. She talks about some meetings she went with. Turns out, she knew a lot of officers, so she can tell everybody about how seditious they were. And she and Camille are both deported to the island of New Caledonia, which is kind of near Australia and is kind of a hell colony. but she manages to survive. In 1881, she returns to France and takes up work in Marseille as a oh, let's say she works in a as a dressmaker. That's poor. That's poor Amanda. I will leave Camille to decide Camille's fate.
Let's see. If I have a card that would I imagine that if I have a card that negates that or said something different than that story, that I ignore.
Sure. I
Ignore it.
mean, it's up to you whether or not you want to accept the deported fate I give you.
Okay. Um, let's see. Here, actually, I'm gonna reveal my card. So I will accept the deported fate, but instead of Camille being shot by the firing squad, he witnesses Felix being shot by the firing squad, somebody who he had known throughout all of these instances and knew, from experiences with his mom, and it's one of the parting visions that is burned in his mind, as he leaves France, is just seeing this person that he knew. Well, I mean, he saw also Lodo being blown away, but just seeing the pure execution of somebody who he had responded to the poetry and knew him. So that haunts him throughout his life. That's.
Do we get any monument to or memory of Felix that can be seen in the 21st century?
Oh, nice. I didn't even get that far. Yeah, there's I mean, it doesn't relate to Camille, but well, no, it does relate to Camille. I'm in the middle of Sorry, I have a dog that has to go out. Camille, Camille in World War One, the time of World War One, starts a small publishing imprint, and he names it after. He names it in the memory of Felix, and that's part of their mission statement. So yeah, moving forward, Felix is memorialized by this publishing outfit.
All right, good for Felix.
I was thinking what you could say is, another big change in my life.
So who's next?
I'll go. Yeah. Tariq does not cooperate. He's arrested along with Amanda and Camille, and he refuses to cooperate, and he's shot. Nobody knows where he's buried. The question is, what memory of you continues to inspire people? I don't know. I think Amanda and Camille remember him fondly, but that may be it.
Well, during the time the Communards were on New Caledonia, you're getting a free bonus history lesson. They also deported a bunch of the Algerians who were in the revolution. So it's quite possible that maybe Amanda talked a lot about good old Tariq.
That's good.
All right, Jesse, I'm sure you've got this wonderful and very happy ending to this
Oh,
tale.
I'm a big fan of happy endings, just in general. So, Josephine doesn't have to be chased down. She walks into the prosecutor's office, and starts naming names. She's lost everything. She's lost her husband. She's lost her country at this point. Remember, she got into this not because she was maybe you shouldn't remember. I don't know if I ever said this, but she got into this not because she was a ideological, international socialist, but because she thought the working people of France needed a fair shake, and she was sort of torn between that class loyalty and national loyalty, and she's just she's lost everything now, right? She was on the wrong side for the people of France, and her husband is dead, and but she feels is nothing. So all she wants to do is get out in one piece, and she does. She is allowed to go into exile. And what I think she does is she goes to her handler or whoever it was that she had contact with in the German army before they pull out, and says, I'm done there. And they agree to sort of take her on as a washerwoman for the army until they go back and it disbands. And I think she settles somewhere in a small town somewhere in Germany, and makes a life for herself there as best she can, and tries to forget she was ever French, even though she knows she can't be German. And so she's just there. And 1881 comes, and she does not come back. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's very meaningful.
Wow. Thank you guys. That was fantastic. If folks want, I can open a Discord channel for debrief. But in any case, it was an absolute pleasure to play with you guys. That was one of the grimmer ones.
Wait.
Good grim. Good grim.
There's a way this cannot be that grim.
No, not really. Occasionally we get something that's kind of happy.
Okay.
But,
if other people have time, I'd love to debrief, but if not, that's also.
Well, I'll paste the Discord link in the other chat room, and if I talk to you, that's great. Otherwise, have a wonderful night. Thank you guys all so very, very much. I really enjoyed this, and thanks for playing my game.
Thank you.
Thanks
so
for
much.
running it.
This is an incredible game, Kat.
Yeah.
Really, something.
Thank you very much.
Incredible history lesson too. Just really amazing.
Hopefully the full text will have all sorts of historical tidbits in it. Yeah. I've suffered from my research. Now so must you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn off this and I'll talk to you all later.
Bye bye.
All right.